Shri. First and foremost, a very good morning and welcome to all the participants present. I hope since you all are aspiring for UPSC and APSC exams, English language is comfortable? Everybody is comfortable in English? Or is there a language issue? I can switch to Assamese as well, there's no problem. Right? The first thing is, if you are UPSC there, then first you should be comfortable with your languages. UPSC is an exam which is well written in English, and then you come to the second languages. Okay, so I hope you don't mind if I just sit and talk to you for a while. So I just wanted to be here specifically for this program. Usually I like other than government programs, I usually don't lecture out. But specifically for today's program, I wanted to be here. I just wanted to see the kind of turnout that we have in Baksa. So I just wanted to see how many people in Baksa at least, how many young students in Baksa at least know of this concept of UPSC and what exactly the exam entails and what exactly are you supposed to do in UPSC. So I would just take about 10 minutes of your time, 10 to 15 minutes of your time to just give you some orientation about what UPSC is, what you should be looking at right now and where you should be after say a year of preparation. So my first thing would be, rather than me speaking, I would want to understand from you that what do you understand about UPSC or APSC? If anybody who's confident enough could just raise their hands and say, Ki bhai, what is UPSC? Or what is it that we are going to discuss? UPSC kya hai? First, please just say the full form of UPSC and what is the meaning of UPSC or why would you want to sit for this exam? अगर आप किसी एग्जाम में बैठ रहे हैं, first this should be very clear to you that what is it that you are going to do. Anybody, please raise your hands. And बच्चे please say your name. नाम बता दीजिए अपना.
Rakesh Shamsher.
हाँ?
Rakesh Shamsher.
Okay.
I have attempted twice for the preliminaries.
UPSC prelims. Okay.
But what I have faced during this prelims is that the course we get in Assam and in other states are very different. And the questions that are asked in the UPSC is mostly based on mainland India. So we know very little about mainland India. And the course that we have learned, like our Seva, right? So in Seva, mostly it is about Assam. Mostly about Assam. So we know very little about the mainland Indians, like we do not know we are lagging behind like a year or two when we talk about the UPSC, because we have very little knowledge about those things that happens in mainland India. Very little questions come from Northeast India.
Anybody else wants to attempt this? Fine.
Good morning, sir. My name is Udit Bora. I'm come from Salwadi. My question is that we all know that UPSC or APSC civil service it is a very long journey. So how to be self-motivated? And my next question is about how to approach current affairs. About current affairs. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll just take the question part after like 5-10 minutes. First, I want to understand your perspective. I asked a very simple question. What do you understand by UPSC? Can anybody attempt that? Like, he's started it in the right direction. I will reply to his remarks in a while. But first, anybody else wants to attempt? What is UPSC? Acha, before even that, how many of you have so far attempted UPSC exam? किमान जो ने एकेल होए के UPSC एटा बाद उठा किमान ने हो attempt दी से? Okay, so I can see 5-6 hands on the crowd. So it's just about 5-6 of you have attempted something. Say prelims, main जहाँ तक भी आप पहुँचे हैं, I am not sure. So okay, now coming to the second part. Say बच्चे आपने attempt किया है, you attempted UPSC. So please tell me, like, what do you understand by UPSC?
Check. Hello sir, good morning. My name is Shri. Hello everyone. So you have asked that what is the UPSC, so I would like to answer that first. It's a Union Public Services and APSC is some public services. Public Service Commission. Yes sir. And apart from that, what I know that we need to, this is the Union Public Service Commission where we need to work for all India services, and it is categorized in IAS, IFS, IRS, Indian Forest Services, it's IRS, Indian Revenue Services. And there are other categories as well, as far I know, it's Group A and B, I guess. So, and 2021 I have attempted for prelims, but I haven't able to make it. So I came to here for this orientation program so that I can learn and see how you like to deliver, and so this much only. Yeah.
Anybody else who wants to attempt? Otherwise, I'll begin with my remarks.
Good morning, everyone, respected Deputy Commissioner sir, and all the respected holders. Myself, Sayabu Sundari, and I am from Musarpur itself. This is actually, I just want to participate in this orientation program to know about UPSC and APSC. I have quite knowledge about UPSC, that Union Public Service Commission, as well as Assam Public Service Commission too. That from this point of view, I just clarify myself as well as the participants from this place that the UPSC provides the civil servants who serve for the public as well for the nation, and both the APSC for the state, and me too trying from this year to aspire about UPSC and trying my best to stand myself in the position as Deputy Commissioner sir and Madam Nijera is here, as well the other stakeholders, and I'm trying to do my best as well. Thank you sir.
Thank you so much for your remarks. Just I want to start with what basically UPSC and APSC are. So UPSC, like that girl has very rightly pointed out, UPSC is Union Public Service Commission and APSC is Assam Public Service Commission. So basically, if you want to be in any grade A services of Government of India or Government of Assam, you have to crack one of these exams. And as far as aapka, basically there is a slight gap in understanding in All India services. All India services are only 3. All India services is only IAS, IPS and Indian Forest Service. Not even Indian Foreign Service. Indian Foreign Service is a different category of service, so although the exam is conducted by UPSC, and all the remaining services, let's say IRS, Indian Revenue Service, then IRS Customs and Excise, CNE, then you have Indian Railway Services, Indian Postal Services, all these are not all India services. They write Indian Fala service, but they are what we call central services. These are called central services, which are regulated directly by Government of India. See, when we talk about the word IAS or IPS, so for example, I am an IAS officer, right? I am working for Government of Assam. I work for Government of India also in a way, but on a day-to-day basis, I work for Government of Assam. But Government of India also controls me in a way. Tomorrow, if there is a problem, I have to go and report to Government of India. But with central services, what happens is, they don't work for any state government. Central services people work only and only for Government of India. There is no state government involved anywhere. So this is the key difference between an All India service and your central services. So anyway, this is slightly technical. I don't think it is very relevant for you at this stage if you are just aspiring for UPSC driven examinations. Now, that boy there had raised a very pertinent thing. Now, he had raised two issues. Number one, he complained that we don't get the kind of coaching that you get in other parts of India, correct? This was one issue. And he had a complaint that in UPSC especially, the questions are more mainland centric and they are less about Northeast India. Now tell me, is UPSC an exam about Northeast India or the entire India? See, I come from the state of Punjab. मैं पंजाब से हूँ. 7 years back, I knew nothing about Assam. I qualified in the year 2016. Before that, I knew almost nothing about Assam. I had some idea, but I was not very thorough with Assam. It's only after I cracked the exam that I joined the state, then I started learning about the state. Now I'm fairly comfortable with the state. So, if I am from Punjab and if UPSC is asking me a question about the northeast of India or say a southern state, say they ask me a question about some Tamil history, I cannot complain that why are you asking me about Tamil history? It's an exam about all India. If you claim yourself to be an Indian citizen and not a Northeast Indian citizen, there is a difference. I have been interacting with a lot of students in Assam for the last 6 years, and this has been a common observation of mine personally, that our students, we guys, tend to think that everything should be Assam centric, but that is not how UPSC at least is designed. Right? UPSC is pan-India. So you cannot ask them or you cannot challenge them that why are you asking me questions about mainland India? You have to know mainland India. If you appear for UPSC and by God's grace if you qualify in the first attempt, second attempt, whenever you qualify, and suddenly you get a state like Rajasthan. Now you might be from Assam, you might get allotted to a Rajasthan state. तब आप क्या करेंगे? Will you say no, I will not join IAS because I want to be in Assam only? Does anyone have that orientation? I pose a simple question that tomorrow you qualified UPSC and you are given the state of Rajasthan. UPSC says that you will be serving in Rajasthan all through your life. It's a take it or leave it offer. That या आप राजस्थान में as IAS, IPS officer join करिए, otherwise there is nothing for you in UPSC. Will you take that job or will you not take that job? I assume everybody will take that job. If somebody is of that orientation who says that I will not move out of Assam, I will stay only in Assam, then please raise your hands. That might be, that is a personal preference. There is nothing wrong with it. I am just asking. Does any of you have that orientation? That if at all you are asked to serve in a different state, you will not be comfortable or you would not like to go. Is that the case? Then this question should be out of your mind. That UPSC is India centric or UPSC is mainland centric. But that is the whole point of this exam. Any given state, I mean it. आप UPSC prelim उठा लीजिए, आप UPSC mains exam उठा लीजिए. No state is given any preference in that exam. I come from the so-called mainstream of the mainland states, right? Punjab is a so-called politically important state in India. It is given overdue weightage at times. I also understand. But even being from Punjab, during my UPSC attempt in the year 2015, I think there was hardly 1 or 2 questions from relating in any way closely to Punjab in the entire exam of 100 questions. Prelims की बात कर रहा हूँ. Mains में तो सवाल ही नहीं है that you will get any state specific question. Mains is a different ball game altogether. right? So I'm keeping my discussion a little UPSC specific because I know more about UPSC. So I'm sure when it comes to Nizara, she'll be able to give you a perspective about APSC similarly. So the way UPSC works is, of course, you know the pattern that you first appear for a prelims exam. Then 2 months or 3 months down the line, in my time it used to be 2.5 months down the line. अभी हो सकता है थोड़ा बहुत timeline ऊपर नीचे हो गया हो. 2 months down the line, you are supposed to appear for mains exam. And if you qualify that, then 2 months or 3 months later, whenever that happens, you are given an interview slot. And in that interview, on the basis of your performance, then you get a combined score of all of the last 2 exams. Prelims is qualifying in nature. So, on the combined basis, whatever is your score, that will determine your rank in the UPSC list. So these days, I think they give about 700 to 800 vacancies. So all over India, now let me tell you the scope of competition. I will give you some numbers, but don't let these numbers overwhelm you. I will get to the breakdown of those numbers also. Do you know how many students approximately appear for UPSC every year? Any rough guess? कितने बच्चे फॉर्म भरते हैं all over India for UPSC prelims? Any idea?
Minimum 9 lakh, 10 lakh.
Yeah, like 10 lakh used to be the figure during my time in 2015-16.
Yes, sir.
Maybe that figure would have increased now a little. I'm not sure.
In previous year, I think 9 lakh.
Okay, could be. So, like I said, during 2015 the figure was around 10 lakhs. So maybe the figure is somewhere close to that now. Out of 10 lakh people, UPSC is ultimately going to select how many? 700. Percent terms में इसको करके देखिए, like what is the pass percent to crack UPSC? I'll give you in both terms. It has to be 99.99%. You get the meaning? 0.01% बच्चा ही इस एग्जाम को पास करेगा. मतलब अल्टीमेटली यूपीएससी के स्कोर में आएगा, यूपीएससी ताली में आएगा. What that translates to is 1 in 1000. 1000 में से एक बच्चा सेलेक्ट होगा. This is the competition of UPSC, and for this reason alone, it is at times called the toughest exam in the entire world. Not just India. At times it is called the toughest exam in the entire world to crack, because the competition is such. 1000 में से एक बच्चा पास होगा. But now let us break this down. This number at times seems very mind-boggling. कि ये क्या है? Like how will I be 1 in 1000? It is not so difficult. See, I just give my example. So my educational background is that I am a chartered accountant. CA, जिसको आप कहते हैं. So the results for CA used to be in my days. Now CA was an equally tough examination. Not equally tough, but CA is a very tough examination in itself. CA का result कुछ ऐसा आता था that the pass percentage for CA prelims used to be around, say, 30%. Then the pass percentage in CA intermediate we used to call it, was around 10%. Then further the pass percentage for CA final exam used to be just 5%. And those of you who are comfortable with mathematics and probability calculation, you would know this number, that to qualify CA in first attempt, the probability would be 30% multiplied by 10% multiplied by 5%. Right? How much does that come to? Bataiye. It is coming to 0.15%. So actually, जो CA का ये बनता है, that to qualify CA in first attempt, you have to be in the top 0.15% of the country to crack it in first go. Now the thing is, this is where you build your confidence. You say कि when you have already been in the top 0.15% of the country, now you just have to move from that top 0.15 to top 0.01, then you want to jump only 10 places. आप समझ पा रहे हैं? I hope that is making sense. That you choose your own field. अभी तक आपने जो भी किया है, whichever background you are from, whether you are from non-medical, you are from medical stream, whether you are from art stream, whichever stream, you see where do you stand in that field till today. And even if you आपको लगता है so called आपका अभी तक performance अच्छा नहीं रहा है, I have seen examples in my own case. People around me who have worked really, really hard with very simple backgrounds, with not so great academic backgrounds, clearing UPSC in the first attempt. It is about your concentration for those 15 months. See, luckily or by God's grace, I was able to qualify UPSC, crack UPSC in first attempt. And knowing the sort of person that I personally am, I would not have given more than 2 attempts for UPSC. After that, I would have given up. कि इससे आगे नहीं होगा. I would have looked for a different job. This was my orientation. And in that, I only got a time of around 15 months to prepare for UPSC. I was doing a private job before that. I quit that job and started preparing for UPSC. And I prepared for around 13 months, and after that I gave my prelims attempt. And luckily I was able to get through. I say this with all humility because UPSC में always there is a luck factor. There is a slight bit of luck involved in UPSC. But having said that, you cannot leave the entire UPSC game to luck. I have seen a lot of people who are preparing for UPSC, they tend to blame a lot of things on luck. कि हमारा लक ठीक नहीं था, हमारा लक ठीक नहीं था इसलिए हमारा क्लियर नहीं हुआ या मेरे साथ ये गलत हो गया. See, luck will work in your favor only if you've done the groundwork. अगर आपने groundwork अच्छे से नहीं किया है, luck will never save you. So unless you have a good foundation, don't blame luck for it. I have seen a lot of people get into this fallacy कि भाई you tend to look for something to blame कि मेरा result खराब क्यों गया. You tend to look for 10 different reasons. ये हुआ, ये हुआ, ये हुआ, ये हुआ. And 9 out of 10 times you think that luck was a reason why you couldn't crack it, but that is not mostly how it is. Right? Now, another just very small thing which I want to point out. जब आप preparation करने लगेंगे, when you will actually start preparing, then you will realize this. A lot of aspirants, a lot of students get into this falsehood that you prepare for prelims first. आप पहले prelim दो, उसके बाद हम mains की तैयारी करेंगे. This is not how UPSC works. You always prepare for mains. You always prepare for mains. Those of you, आप में से किसी ने prelims crack करके mains attempt किया है? Has anybody attempted mains here? UPSC mains? Okay, then you would not know. Let me tell you this out of first-hand experience. Prelims is nothing compared to mains. Once you attempt mains, you have so much confidence in the world कि आप कभी भी कहीं भी किसी से भी कुछ भी बात कर सकते हो. You will be so thorough with things. Mains are never about factual things. Mains are never about simple questions. Mains will never be about who is the father of the nation. Mains will never be this. Mains will never be about what was the birth date of Mahatma Gandhi. Mains will be so complicated an analysis of Mahatma Gandhi that you will actually need to know about Mahatma Gandhi to write that answer. Are you getting this? Mains will never ask you a simple thing कि भाई महात्मा गांधी कब, कौन, कहाँ, कैसे पैदा हुए थे. Those are not the questions that UPSC asks in mains. They will ask, भाई write about the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, not just write about philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. You will be asked to critique it, to critically examine. The words are very heavy which are used in UPSC mains exams these days. Critically examine, evaluate. As a young Indian, you are supposed to give your opinion on even the greatest of Indian personalities. Do you understand this? How big a thing is this? Mahatma Gandhi was a living legend. is still a legend, right? We have no right or means to talk about him anywhere. But UPSC is one platform where the commission themselves will ask you to even, criticize Mahatma Gandhi on paper. Do you agree with some of the things? Let's say you agree with most of the things of Mahatma Gandhi. Let's say especially his policy of Gram Swaraj. How many of you know of this concept of Gram Swaraj? किसी ने सुना है ये? Has anyone heard of this term, Gram Swaraj? Okay, this is one of the core ideas given by Mahatma Gandhi during India's freedom struggle. So Gram Swaraj was a very brilliant concept. I will not get into its detail. That is not the agenda of this meeting. Now, they will ask you to critically examine the policy of Gram Swaraj. They will say whether do you agree with this idea of Gram Swaraj or not. How will you be able to do this? आप प्रीलिम में तो सिर्फ इतना पढ़ेंगे that who gave the idea of Gram Swaraj? महात्मा गांधी. Done. प्रीलिम्स हो गया. मेंस में उतना पता होने से तो वो क्वेश्चन ही नहीं आपको समझ आएगा. मेंस में the question is, they themselves will tell you, yes, Mahatma Gandhi gave the idea of Gram Swaraj. However, in the Indian context and given the 73rd Amendment of the Constitution, wherein certain rights, roles and responsibilities have been delegated to the Gram Panchayats in India, do you think it's still relevant in the Indian context? Or critically evaluate the same in the light of 73rd Amendment of the Indian Constitution? ये जो मैंने अभी आपको बोला है, it might sound like an essay to you, but this is a typical UPSC question. If you want to do this exercise, please do this. आप UPSC की वेबसाइट पे जाके पिछले 10 साल का क्वेश्चन पेपर उठा के देखिए. Mains, not prelims. Believe me, आजकल जो क्वेश्चन है, क्वेश्चन में ही 100 words लिखा होने लग गया. In 100 words, they are simply going to ask you a question. 100 words का क्वेश्चन होगा और उसके अगेंस्ट आपको 1000 words का आंसर लिखना होगा. So to even read that 100-word question, you would need to know the in and out of that topic. So like I said for Gram Swaraj, you will need to know that policy thoroughly. Then secondly, सिर्फ Gram Swaraj पता होने से नहीं होगा. Then he's talking about the 73rd Amendment to the Indian Constitution. You would need to know what is the 73rd Amendment to the Indian Constitution. उसमें क्या हुआ था? Whether it has actually worked or not. Now you need to combine the two concepts. Is this concept still relevant as per the 73rd Amendment या उसके आने से ये हो गया है या उसके आने से इसकी relevance खत्म हो गई? That is what you need to answer. It's sounding a little heavy. आप लोग I'm sure you would have just come today for an orientation session. आप शायद just basic जानने आए थे UPSC के बारे में कि ये क्या बना है. But this is exactly UPSC. If you want to appear for it, appear very, very seriously. Don't appear casually. Now again I'm telling you, again we come to those concept of numbers. I said out of 10 lakh people who appear, only 600, 700 qualify. But believe me, out of those 10 lakh, I'm saying this out of personal experience. Out of those 10 lakhs, we call them serious candidates and non-serious candidates. Out of those 10 lakhs, you would get only about 1.5 to 2 lakh serious candidates, not more than that. बाकी 8 लाख लोग बस झक मार रहे हैं. They have nothing better to do with their lives, so अपने पेरेंट्स को बेवकूफ बनाने के लिए, अपने आप को बेवकूफ बनाने के लिए UPSC दे रहे हैं. They are not very focused on what or where they want to go. Right? So the first thing that you have to promise yourself first is that if at all you decide to write UPSC or APSC or any competitive exam, is that you be called a serious candidate and not a non-serious candidate. देखो, आप लोग सब अभी I believe you would be in that age bracket of 20 to 30 years maximum. कोई हो सकता है उससे थोड़ा 1-2 साल ऊपर नीचे हो. Be it any field, not just UPSC, APSC or competitive exams. कोई भी सेक्टर हो, आप प्राइवेट सेक्टर में जाना चाह रहे हो, you want to be a good engineer, you want to be a good doctor, you want to be a good lawyer, you want to be a good professional or anything. 20 and 30 is the time when at least you have to do those struggling years. You have to have at least 2 to 3 struggling years. And those 2-3 struggling years will determine what you will do for the rest of your lives. वो 3 साल का grind अगर आपने इस 20 to 30 age में कर लिया है, you will have a very good career. Otherwise, all through your career, you will keep finding excuses as to why you could not do well. You will say, मेरे हालात अच्छे नहीं थे, I did not have good socio-economic background, I did not have good education, I did not have this, I did not have that. But believe me, a very big reason for that would have been is that there was a lacking in your struggle in those formative years of 20 to 30. So if at all you want to appear for UPSC, make sure that you are not deceiving yourself. आप अपने आप को धोखा मत देना कि हम UPSC दे रहे हैं. आप UPSC तब दे रहे हैं जब आप दिन में कमिटमेंट कर पाए that yes, if 10 hours of study is required per day, I am putting in those 10 hours of study. I've seen this happen to a lot of aspirants. I've seen this happen to a lot of my own very close friends. See, I'll tell you what. If I am saying I cracked it in 11 months. After 11 months of study, I was able to sit for prelims and mains also, and luckily I got through. But those 11 months were not easy. Every day I used to put in a clock of around 11 hours, 11 to 12 hours minimum. 12 घंटे कुर्सी पे बैठे हैं तो मतलब बैठे हैं. There is no this or that in that. कि a lot of people have this orientation. Some of you would want to go outside to prepare for UPSC. कोई दिल्ली जाके prepare करना चाहेगा, गुवाहाटी जाके prepare करना चाहेगा. You get faced with a lot of distractions. You might have 10 friends, you might have mobile phones, you might have social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, this, that, ये वो. हमारे टाइम पे भी ये सब आ गया था. I'm from that generation. Our generation grew up on Facebook, so we were very thorough with Facebook and some other social media as well. If you want to put in those 10 hours of study, make sure that your mind is not distracted in those 10 hours. आप किताब पढ़ते पढ़ते ये नहीं कर सकते कि अच्छा let me just check my Twitter account, what is happening. Number 2, very importantly, don't get into public debates. Right now is not the time. If you are preparing for UPSC, don't get into unnecessary and time-wasting sort of public debates. This very often happens when you are in a, let's say, in an outside environment. I used to see this often in Delhi. There is a place there called Rajendra Nagar. I'm not sure आप लोगों में से कितनों ने सुना है. There is a place there called Old Rajendra Nagar, ORN, which is the hub of UPSC coaching and UPSC preparation. So we used to have this culture there. वहाँ ये छोटा छोटा कोने पे चाय वाले बैठते थे. I'm sure अभी भी बैठते होंगे. So वहाँ पे सभा लग जाती थी. So if there are 10 UPSC aspirants, suddenly there is a hot topic going on. 10 students will stand on that chai wala thela and start discussing random issues जिनसे अभी उनका दिन दुनिया से मतलब नहीं है. Don't waste your time there. Why are you so bothered with what is happening in the politics of India? Right now is not your time to check what is happening to the politics of India. आप जो करने आए हैं वो करिए. UPSC is not about politics. One very important thing which I will give you is somebody mentioned about how to prepare for current affairs. See, believe me, the only thing that I ever did for current affairs was just to read newspapers and read them very, very thoroughly. Newspaper पढ़ना आसान नहीं है. A standard edition of the Hindu newspaper is about 20 pages. 20 pages worth of information, and that information is very, very heavy. It's hard to process. The first art of reading UPSC newspaper is that you need to filter what news is relevant for you in the exam and what is not. A lot of news in newspaper is political in nature. That is not your curriculum. That is not a part of UPSC. Any political development is actually not a part of UPSC unless there is a constitutional issue involved in it. Correct? Now, just to give you a very small example, say there is some issue going on with Maharashtra government these days, right? There is some tumble going on, tussle going on. This is not relevant for UPSC. You don't need to know who is Uddhav Thackeray, who is Shinde, who is this, who is that. That is not relevant for you. You don't need to know what is Shiv Sena doing here. Maharashtra Assembly में इसके पास कितना सीट है, उसके पास कितना सीट है. If you're reading that, you're wasting your time. But out of this, what is relevant for you is there might be a question related to the larger constitutional issue. What is the larger constitutional issue? Of formation of government. There might be a larger constitutional issue of something called the anti-defection law. So, आपको यूपीएससी प्रीलिम में कोई ये नहीं पूछने वाला कि ड्यूरिंग दिस क्राइसिस हाउ मेनी सीट्स डिड उद्धव ठाकरे हैव विद हिम. दैट इज नॉट योर क्वेश्चन, राइट? दैट इज नॉट रिलेवेंट फॉर यू. What you might get asked even in prelims and more specifically in mains is that to attract anti-defection law, how many members do you need to have with yourself of the political party? That is a question which you need to have, which you need to know, because that is coming out of the Constitution of India. ये Constitution में लिखा है. I'm forgetting the amendment name. There was, I think it was called the Schedule 10 of the Constitution, which started the provisions of anti-defection law. वहाँ पे ये लिखा हुआ है that why and how you cannot make or break assemblies like that. So your question is that. Your question is not Uddhav Thackeray. So please get out of this habit of names reading. बड़े लोगों के बारे में पढ़ना और सोचना छोड़ दो. That is not UPSC. It is a hard ask. ये आप starting में जब newspaper पढ़ते हो, the first 2 months you should train yourself only in this. What is relevant for you, what is not relevant for you. There is an information overload, बहुत information है market में, and you are constantly bombarded with that information. You need to keep your mind clear. If you want to have those good 10-11 months where you are very focused and sharp, right? You need to know what is the core of the issue. Clear? I hope I have been able to answer some of your questions. Since this is just an orientation session, I didn't want to bog you down with a lot of details and heavy stuff. इसमें क्या करना है, उसमें क्या करना है. That is not relevant for you at this stage. I just wanted to set your orientation correct. कि अगर आप interest रखते हैं, make sure your interest counts for something, right? Make sure your interest counts for something. And another very important exercise that you need to do before you begin with your UPSC journey is you first need to be honest with yourself about why you are getting into UPSC. I don't want to ask this question in public, because if I ask you this question here, 90% of you, at least 90% of you will say this answer, मैं देश की सेवा करना चाहता हूँ, मैं समाज के लिए कुछ करना चाहता हूँ. Fine, there's no denying. A very big part of UPSC is देश की सेवा, समाज की सेवा. But there is always another motivation for UPSC and APSC. हर एक की अलग motivation होती है. Answer that question very honestly to yourself. ये सिर्फ अपने आप को आंसर करना है आपको. Why are you appearing for UPSC, or why are you interested in UPSC? If your motivation is correct, then the exam will be an easy task. अगर आप अपने आप से dishonest रहोगे, if you keep giving yourself a false answer कि नहीं मैं देश सेवा के लिए ही जा रहा हूँ, you are in for a load of trouble. Even if somehow, by God's grace, by luck, you are able to make it through UPSC and you gave yourself a dishonest answer कि आप देश सेवा के लिए जा रहे हैं, you will be frustrated from your job in the first year itself. आप एक ही साल में अपने जॉब से इतना फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाओगे, इतना परेशान हो जाओगे, that you would want to quit this job. I am saying you this as an IAS officer. I have been an IAS officer for the last 7 years. Some of my own colleagues, some of my own batchmates have quit in the first year or first 2 years because they had dishonestly answered this question for themselves to begin their preparation. अपने आप को धोखा मत दो. This is the key to any successful career, not just UPSC. If not UPSC, you would have a different orientation. You would want to say join a different line. आप private sector में नौकरी करना चाहते हैं, right? If your motivation is say money, UPSC is probably not the best field to go for it. Then you would probably want to join a private sector job. तो private sector में अगर आपका motivation clear है, that आपका motivation पैसा है, you will be earning good money and you will be happy. But say your motivation was money and you ended up in UPSC. In the first year you will realize there is not a lot of money. So दो ही ऑप्शन बचते हैं, या तो आप गलत काम करेंगे आप लाइफ लॉन्ग प्रेशर में रहेंगे, और द सेकेंड थिंग इज यू विल नॉट बी मेकिंग मनी एंड पर्सनली यू विल बी ऑलवेज डिससैटिस्फाइड. बाहर पूछने से यू विल कीप ऑन सेइंग नहीं देश सेवा कर रहे हैं, नहीं देश सेवा कर रहे हैं, बट यू नो योर माइंड एंड सोल इज नॉट हैप्पी अबाउट व्हाट यू आर डूइंग. सो डोंट डिसीव योरसेल्फ एंड थिंक थ्रू. These will be my only two advices. I think I've taken a lot of your time. I could say I think I've been speaking for the last half an hour. So again, I would now would want to hear some questions if you have any. After Samano at this stage, don't ask very specific questions कि ये subject में क्या पढ़ना है. That is not your that should not be your orientation at this stage at least. आप थोड़ा अंदर जाओ, you will get to know eventually what to do, where to do. And all of us are there. Mizora is there, I am here, and all the officers in DC office are available at your disposal for all the students from Baksa. You have any issues, you have any doubts with regard to UPSC preparation, just come over to our office. We'll have a cup of tea. आपके साथ आराम से बैठ के चाय पे बात करेंगे, then things will get a lot easy for you also. So if there are any further questions at this stage, I would want to take those. Please.
Hello sir, everybody said that UPSC is a toughest exam in India, Indian toughest exam. So taking coaching is mandatory or not?
See, I'll give a slightly nuanced answer to this. Taking coaching is never necessary in any exam. In any exam. Like I told you guys before, I gave CA exams also before this. Now that is also a competitive exam. There also personally I didn't take any coaching. In UPSC, what I did, I was sitting in a place called Rajendra Nagar. I was not taking any formal coaching there. But I was in an environment where you are surrounded by people who are talking about UPSC. The one thing which I would say is, whether you are taking coaching or not, have a good mentor for UPSC. There should be somebody who should be able to guide you. Now that guide could be a friend, that guide could be a previous teacher, that guide could be an old aspirant जिसने crack किया है exam, या serving civil servant, any IAS, IPS, whichever officer that you find comfortable, right? Because जो मैंने आपको बताया, at least in the starting few months, you need to be able to know what is relevant and what is not relevant. That comes with experience. For that you need somebody to tell you कि भाई इस पे time waste मत करो. This is nonsense. Why are you reading this? Yeah, why are you spending your energy over this? Only for that you need a guide. That doesn't mean you need coaching. आप coaching नहीं ले रहे, like I did. I didn't take coaching, but I was in Rajendra Nagar. In Rajendra Nagar, I was talking with a lot of people. So वो दो लोग से आप बात करते हो, आपको पता चल जाता है कि भाई this is not relevant, yeah, this is not required. Or in my case, I used to be also in touch with an IRS officer, a revenue service officer, with whom I had links from before. So he used to guide me at times कि भाई ये आपके लिए जरूरी है, ये चीज़ नहीं जरूरी है, so on and so forth. So that is my second take on it. And especially for students from Northeast, I always say this whenever I interact with them. Don't think of Northeast as any kind of disadvantage that you have. I'll give you a very simple anecdote. How many of you know about this process of UPSC interview? UPSC interview के बारे में सबने सुना होगा, right? Interview is a very subjective thing. You know, your being from Northeast is your greatest advantage in a UPSC interview. अगर आपका UPSC मेंस में स्कोर थोड़ा कम भी है, but simply because you are from the Northeast of India, you will get additional marks in UPSC interview. I can say this from my experience of my own batchmates. I have batchmates from the Northeast. I have a brilliant batchmate from Manipur, Diana. Now Diana, I scored 15 marks more than Diana in UPSC mains, right? My rank was rank 63 and Diana's rank was 25. She was roughly 40 ranks ahead of me. You know why? I scored 179 in UPSC interview. Diana scored 210 in UPSC interview. Diana scored 31 marks more than me in UPSC interview. All for the simple reason that she was from Manipur. We had the same board, we had similar questions, we had similar everything. But she figured 40 ranks ahead of me in that UPSC list because she was from Manipur and I was from a mainland state. So think that being from Northeast is your advantage, not your disadvantage. जब आप स्टार्टिंग किसी भी चीज की इस मेंटालिटी से करेंगे कि भाई आपका सर्कमस्टांस आपका एडवांटेज है, आपका नुकसान नहीं है, then you will be in a good state. Then you will be in a very good state. अगर आप स्टार्टिंग ही दीनहीन पोजीशन से करेंगे कि भाई हमारे साथ लाइफ में हमेशा बुरा ही हुआ है, मतलब हम नॉर्थ ईस्ट से हैं, बड़ा डिसएडवांटेज हो जाएगा जी, पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. You are starting with a negative mindset. That is not going to take you anywhere. ठीक है?
Hello sir, Namaskar. I am one of the faculties in the college. Sir, I just have one question, not a question, kind of your take on that. So mostly when you go for some sort of kind of counseling programs and all the different places, when you interact with the students, most of the time we observe that when I encourage them for you should go for a UPSC, civil services and all, their reply would be like, so we can't do that. I am from that sort of background. My father is a farmer. My father is like that. We are like, we are tribals, like we are Gorkhas, like we are BODO. So how can you go for a UPSC? It's actually for the people from Guwahati, from Tezpur, from Mumbai, Delhi. That sort of taboo or kind of stigma in their mind. So we are not able to break that sort of inferiority complex in them. So even if they have talents, they are not really agreed to come out for some sorts of civil service sector. So how do you kind of encourage them to come out of that? That's the question, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. आपका नाम?
Sir, my name is Om Prakash Pokhrel, teacher from this college only.
लेकिन पोखरेल साहब, I'll answer this question two ways. You always get faced with these kind of questions. There will always be somebody in the crowd who would say, I have 10 different disadvantages because of which I will not be able to do. Now the answer for that is, there is a statistical answer, there is an anecdotal answer. I will give you both. First, I'll give you the statistical answer. आप पिछले 5 साल में UPSC से, especially from the year 2015 onwards, there is a UPSC profile analysis which Labasna does, the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration. You please go to its website and they give out the statistics of the candidates who have become IAS officers. So there is a batch profile for us also. We were a batch of 180 IAS officers. हमारा पूरा batch analysis वहाँ पे दिया गया है. Academic, they tell you कि 180 में से कितने बच्चे किस stream के थे, right? They will also give you the state-wise analysis. They will tell you कि even from the remotest corners of India, IAS officers are getting made. They will give you the caste analysis as well. Caste analysis only till SC, ST, OBC, not beyond that. They will not delve into each and every caste. They will give you those numbers. Even from the remotest of tribal backgrounds, there is a very inspiring officer in the 2018 batch. They are 2 years junior to us. That guy is from a tribe called Bonds. Have you heard of this tribe, Bonds? सुना है आपने? Bonds would be one of the most so-called backward tribes of India, even in modern day India. I have been to that boy's place. His mother is about, I think, 70 years old, 70, 75 years old today. Very short looking, about 4 feet in height. 4 feet and dresses only in a sari. Dresses only in a tribal sari, doesn't still wear a blouse like you used to do back in the old days. So it's that kind of a setup, and his mother still cooks on an earthen stove. वो चूल्हे पे खाना बनाती हैं. They have a mud house still. So he comes from that sort of a background. So आपका disadvantage count करना is just you playing the victim card, nothing else. I can give you 10 different examples like this boy. मेरे अपने बैच में, if you want to go and read, like I'll just give you one name. There's a boy named Ansar Sheikh. Ansar Sheikh, he became like a mini celebrity also from our batch. He has a lot of fan following and this and that. आप अंसार शेख का जाके Facebook और Twitter account check कीजिए. Just read about his background story. Where he comes from, what sort of economic circumstances does he come from? He comes from a very, very humble family. Very humble family. Almost like a hand-to-mouth sort of family. He was able to crack it. He doesn't have the greatest of educational background. He was an engineer, but from a third-tier college, not even the second-tier college. He came from a humble background, had a humble education. He cracked UPSC in his first attempt. And he was the youngest IAS officer in our batch. He cracked UPSC at the age of 22. I was 24 when I cracked it. So, again I say, you have to answer this question twofold. There is a statistical answer also. आपको चाहिए, आप figures देख लीजिए. The figures speak for themselves. कि ऐसा नहीं है कि disadvantaged बच्चे, disadvantaged in terms of their background, are not getting ahead. And number two, if you want to look at individual stories, there are 100 individual stories. मैंने आपको just वो दो stories बताई जो मुझे बहुत अच्छे से पता है. There are 2 stories from our batch itself, so those I narrated to you. Likewise, there are stories in every batch. So it's all made up in the candidate's mind. That is why I told you in the beginning. अपने आप को धोखे में मत रखिए. Be honest with yourself before you start any preparation. I hope that.
Thank you for the questions, as well as I think we do not have anyone else for this. Again, is there anyone? If I have one, I can allow.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Shri, and I have a lot of interest in civil services. So at the very first time, I would like to know that there are many books, and at the first attempt, we think that which book to start reading or studying. So we get complicated at the first time. Yes, sir.
See, I mean, the thing I would recommend in this is, I will not get into specific subjects. There is enough online guidance available for this. Right? There is enough online guidance available for this. But my only recommendation or advice would be, say for example, modern Indian history. It's a big part of UPSC, both for prelims as well as mains. So modern Indian history, there are 10 different recommendations. Somebody will say कि Bipin Chandra, there is a brilliant author by the name of Bipin Chandra. He's like the go-to book for UPSC. सब लोग, majority लोग वही पढ़ते हैं. मैंने भी वही पढ़ा for modern Indian history. I didn't read any UPSC. Then there is somebody who says कि नहीं ये book थोड़ा outdated हो गया है. You read Partition to Classic. There is another book for modern Indian history. ये पढ़ लो. Then there would be somebody who says ये सब छोड़ो, Spectrum पढ़ ले. Then there would be another one who would say कि फलां book पढ़ ले, XYZ पढ़ ले. So what you would find is that for any given subject you have 10 different books. I think this is your question.
Yes, sir.
Now the way I did it, मैं just आपको वो बता रहा हूँ जो मैंने किया. See if this works for you or not. I just went through a lot of their interviews after examination and I saw कि इन लोगों ने क्या क्या पढ़ा था. I just went through the toppers interviews. So in that I was able to figure out a pattern. That by 6 out of 10 toppers or 7 out of 10 toppers are saying that modern Indian history के लिए they read Bipin Chandra. So I decided I will read Bipin Chandra. I am not saying that you read Bipin Chandra. हो सकता है आजकल चेंज हो गया हो. I don't know. My knowledge is 7 years old, right? हो सकता है आजकल लोग कुछ और पढ़ रहे हो. So you see that लोग क्या पढ़ रहे हैं. But the thing that you have to do now, very importantly, is once you've decided that you're going to read Bipin Chandra, read only Bipin Chandra. Then don't confuse yourself कि आज Bipin Chandra पढ़ ली, 2 महीने बाद आप बोलो नहीं यार ये मतलब 30 से कि ये बुक बड़ी अच्छी है, ये पढ़ते हैं. Then suddenly you leave Bipin Chandra and you start Partition to Classic. That is going to confuse you. I got this advice from that IRS officer that I was telling you about. He gave a very good advice. He said, don't read 10 books one time over. Read one book 10 times over. एक किताब पढ़िए लेकिन उसको 10 बार पढ़िए. So that thing gets framed in your mind. वो छप जाए दिमाग में. But if you read 10 different books once, you will not remember any of those books. उनमें से किसी का कुछ याद नहीं रहने वाला. Take your time. This decision can be made in a week. Do your research. कि कौन सा बुक आजकल टॉपर पढ़ रहे हैं. It's always a good indicator. कि अगर 10 में से 8 टॉपर्स ने एक किताब पढ़ के एग्जाम टॉप किया, it means कि वो बुक ठीक है. Right? So this is my approach. See if it works for you.
Okay, so sir.
We would like to end this inaugural part by our Honorable Deputy Commissioner, Aayush Garg. We are very much grateful to have you, and it has been enlightening for all the aspiring, most of